Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bad Guitarist Podcast. My name is Andrew.
And my name is Kat.
This is episode 2. Episode 1, we just went over some basics for Kat. If you missed it, this podcast is just about Kat doesn't know anything about music gear, and we're kind of just walking her through the basics of it. Every week, we're going to talk about some new releases, some stuff that might have come out this week, or things we might have missed last week, and we're just going to go from there. We're going to talk about it. Talk about some news in the gear community, and just some some current events, and get some opinions on different things.
Hopefully learn something.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for here.
So this time I came prepared. I looked up a few topics for us to get started on.
Okay.
So I don't think any of these actually came out this week, but since this is a new podcast, we might as well, talk about some stuff. So right here on the computer, I've got us loaded up with, I think this one came out like 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
Earthquaker devices.
We had
You're
talked
familiar.
about them.
You're
I'm
familiar with the
familiar with
artwork.
those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this one's called the Silos. Multi-generational time reflection device. So it's a delay. Fancy way of saying it's a
Is
delay
it really
pedal.
necessary, the multi-generational? I cannot even pronounce
No, but
it.
that's the way they do their thing. That's their signature thing. They have long subtitles to the title of the pedal.
Okay.
I think it looks cool right off the bat.
149.
$149. How do you feel about the price?
I don't know. I do like Earthquaker pedals. I do think they have a nice design. You have a couple of them.
Yeah.
I think they sound good. So I don't think 149 is that bad.
Okay, and that's without you having heard any of it, seeing
I
it in
haven't
action,
heard about
anything.
the pedal. I just
By the looks of it, 149 is good.
Off the look of it
Yeah.
and who did it. So,
Yeah. So
I mean, it's Earthquaker.
I did watch the video on this,
Okay.
and Jamie Stillman, the guy from Earthquaker, he did talk about how this was based on a delay pedal that he had, his very first delay pedal, which was just
Okay.
some cheap generic one, but he loved the sound of it. And so he programmed this thing with, you can do presets on it, which they're useful if you're, a live performing artist. You just program your presets in advance to whatever song you're playing and
Okay.
dial it in, and there you go. Right on stage, just boom, preset 2. That's good for this song. So, 3 modes. You get a digital delay. So digital, that's kind of self-explanatory for you, right?
I will believe so, yeah.
So it's just a digital chip that processes the sound and makes the delays happen. Analog is a little different because analog is, there were chips called Bucket Brigade chips.
I don't know that.
I don't
though.
think this actually uses them because a lot of these pedals that have digital and analog modes, they're all digital. But they have what they call like analog voicing. So it sounds like a classic analog delay. So the difference between digital and analog,
Okay.
typically, is digital will have perfect repeats every time. But then analog, that'll have decaying repeats. So it'll kind of fade away. It'll be kind of dirtier sounding. And then the third one is tape delay. So tape delays, those are those big rack unit machines, not rack units, but big machines like the Roland Space Echo. I've shown you that one.
I've seen that one.
Effects like that, it's literally a tape that's going around and catches the sound and runs it through the tape heads and then causes the repeats.
Okay.
And those are, like I said, the Roland Space Echo, and they had a bunch of different variations. Different brands had, equivalent products. Things like that. So oil can delay is another one. That was like an early form of delay. So that's kind of what he based that off of. So they're boasting that, it pairs well with distortion. A lot of delays might get a little too muddy.
And you do
lost
have
in the
the
mix.
plums, don't you?
The plumes, oh yeah, this picture right
I
here.
think you do have those.
Yeah, so they're partnering it with the plumes in this photo. I think they did that in the demo video as well.
No, you're going to say that you need it because you already had the
that's the
plums,
purpose of this podcast
and
is
you need to pair it.
so there's two reasons for this podcast. To teach you about some stuff.
Now there's another reason for
and
the
then to
Buy
convince
music equipment on
you
the
to let me
way.
buy this stuff. Yeah.
podcast.
Okay. So, yeah, you can switch between the 3 modes.
Okay.
Something they're calling live mode, which is, I believe, where you're just switching through whatever settings you want. And you switch from live mode to preset mode. So we already talked about the presets. You can plug in an expression controller to it, which looks kind of like a wah pedal, traditionally.
Okay.
So you can control certain parameters of the effect with your foot. Other than that, they have ones that are like knob expression controllers, but usually you'll see people using the foot-controlled ones. So it looks like you can program it for time, repeats, or the mix. And then here's the full controls. Mode, time, repeats, mix, which is the amount that you're adding in. Repeats is the amount of times it delays. And then the preset, you can do 6. So we can listen to that later. Overall, I mean, I think it's a good price. It's a good-looking pedal.
I mean, I listened to the demos. What I was saying.
Yeah.
I think $149 is a fair price.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you can buy it. I'm saying it's a fair price for whoever wants to buy it.
Whoever.
It's fair.
Christmas is coming up. But yeah, I think it's one of their better looking pedals that they've come out with in the last few years.
Really?
I think so. I mean, simple design, but I think this is the first one I've seen in that compact size.
How old is the Plums?
Huh?
How old is the Plums?
I want to say 2019.
I mean, that's not that old. I still think that's a really nice design.
Yeah. No, I think that's what caught me immediately on the Plumes. Is I did not like tube screamers at all. I was not a fan of the sound of the tube screamer. But when they announced the Plumes, the day that they announced it, I just happened to look at my phone right like 2 minutes after they made the announcement. They're like, hey, presets are starting now. I had not heard a clip of it. And I immediately placed my order. I don't know what this does, but I need it. And they said, oh, it's a tube screamer, but
like
it's modified.
Because you like it the way it look.
Yeah.
And then you judge me when I say, oh, that pedal looks good, because I don't know anything about the pedal,
like
but it looks good.
The green and the yellow, I don't know why it just reminded me of like, which is weird because I've never played the Legend of Zelda video games, but that's what it reminded me of immediately, like the color scheme. And I was like, you know what? I got to have this.
But do you remember?
Yeah.
You used to have a pedal that it was like huge, and it was red, and it had like a whole thing going on the design.
The Walrus Audio Bellwether delay. So it was a fully analog delay.
That was beautiful.
With tap tempo, I think. Yeah.
And you made fun of me because I didn't know anything about the pedal, but I was saying that it was beautiful.
No, that was a beautiful pedal.
And now you're telling the story
that
you bought it because it was nice looking.
Well, to be fair, the Bellwether, I did get that in a trade with only having heard a couple of YouTube demos.
But the pedal was beautiful.
It was.
That is like a piece of art.
Yeah.
It really is.
Well, I had the Bellwether, and I can't remember what the other one was. It was...
but it was really nice,
Same size enclosure from the same era of Walrus Audio. It was a phaser. It had 2 phase circuits in one, so you could have them phasing into each other, and I can't remember what the name of it was. But I don't like phasers very much. I've learned that. I've tried several at this point, and I just can't get into them. I don't know why. Phasers and flangers, I just cannot get into.
I mean, the point of the story is that I was like hardly Josh.
I wouldn't say harshly judged.
It was bad because I say it was beautiful and I didn't know nothing about the pedal. And now he's coming out with this story where he's saying that he bought it because it was nice.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Well, no. It ended up working out, though, because that is my one pedal on my board that I don't think I will ever get rid of.
You say that about everything.
No, there's a few. There's a lot that have changed over the years, but the Plumes, since I got it, that stayed on the board. And ever since I got the Keeley Caverns, I don't think that's going anywhere.
But let me give you another example. Yeah. Just let me give you that example.
Here we go.
We were talking. What's the name of that pedal?
I don't know.
No, it's not the Plums. You even have a tattoo of that pedal.
Oh, the Big Muff.
The Big Muff.
Yeah.
You're always saying, this is one of those pedals that are never going to get rid of. Well, and you get rid of that pedal like every now and then. So we have to buy it again.
I think that's a misunderstanding.
No.
I always have.
Not a misunderstanding.
No. What I've said to you is I always have some kind of Big Muff. It doesn't have to be an Electro-Harmonix Big Muff. It doesn't have to be the original Big Muff. It could be any form of muff type pedal. So right now, the one I've had for the last year or so, it's not actually a big muff circuit, but it kind of achieves the same sound, is the Boss Power Driver, the PW2. And That's
But
the orange
weren't
one
you
that's on my
saying
board.
you wanted a big muff again?
Did I say that?
Yes, you
I
did.
probably did. I probably did. Yeah.
Yes, you did.
Well, there's just so many versions out there. No, I think the one I told you that I would want to buy again is the TC Electronics Honeypot.
But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're saying, I want to buy again.
Well, at some point. No, but the Honeypot was, I would say, honestly, it's a $50 pedal or $40 pedal.
Okay.
That was one of the best sounding big muff style circuits I've ever played. And I've played, most of them at this point.
Unbelievable.
Well, most of the Electro Harmonics ones. I tried a couple stomp underfoot ones that are very good. They specialize in kind of big muffs. Wren and Cuff is another brand. They're boutique brands, and they specialize in all sorts of different like rare versions of the big muff or discontinued versions. They try to get the original
I'm just
components
saying
and
that
stuff.
talking about pedals,
Yeah.
you have to bite your tongue sometimes because you're like, this is it. It's never going to come out of my board. And then it's out of your board. You change it, exchange it, whatever it happens. And then a month or two later, you're saying, okay, I need it back.
Yeah. Well, a problem I'm having right now, not a problem, but so we recently got the Roland JC22 Jazz Chorus. And this is an amp that I've been after for years.
Or so you said.
No, like ever since I first saw it, I heard it, and the chorus effect built into it, the clean sound on it. I fell in love with it pretty much right after I started playing guitar, because this is an amp that's been around for decades. So I've tried. I played mostly Fender amps, Fender solid state amps. I had a Fender Princeton Chorus. I moved on from that to a 1989 Fender the Twin. So it's not a regular twin reverb. Does not have the vibrato circuit or the tremolo. It has a distortion channel instead. So I've had that amp for a few years now, and it actually was damaged in shipping. So that's why you've seen it, where it's got 4 of the knobs are broken off, but it's all 4 knobs for the clean channel. But you can run clean and the dirty channel in parallel or series. And so I found a way to run the clean channel by using like an attenuator in the back. So that allows you to adjust the volume, because everything's set to maximum volume. All the knobs are set to max with them broken off. So I found a good way to mix the clean and dirty channel, but then we were living in an apartment for the longest time. Well, we finally moved into a house, but for the first, 3 years that we were married.
Yeah, we were living in a small apartment, yeah.
And a 100-watt amp, that's not good. So I switched to a Vox Pathfinder 15R. We got that one right there.
Yeah.
It's a solid-state amp. It's the closest thing to, I would say, a solid-state Fender Princeton. It sounds more like a Princeton than it does a regular Vox tube amp.
Okay.
But it's really good solid-state. But I was having trouble with drive pedals not sounding very good through it. Distortions and fuzzes, sure, but overdrives.
And you need it.
So it was good for the plumes, which I use as a clean boost. So last year, was it last year? Earlier this year?
It was earlier this year.
You bought me the Blues Driver, which I started with the Blues Driver like a decade ago. Came back to it after trying 1,000 other pedals. And then the Jazz Chorus is notorious for not taking overdrives or distortions very well. So it's kind of hit or miss.
Okay.
The Blues Driver sounds pretty good with certain guitars. Some guitars, it doesn't sound very good. I don't know. And this is all with the Jazz Chorus amp. So I'm just not sure if I need to somehow split the signal, get a splitter, or build a splitter. I can just build one.
Or you need a guitar that goes good.
Oh, well, we'll get to that later.
I didn't know you.
If I need to split the signal between the Fender or the Vox and the Jazz Chorus so that my dirty signal goes through a different amp than the cleans, I don't know. I just don't like having that many cables running. I'm simple with it. I like to just go pedals, guitar, pedals, amp. But
of course, and then if you have a guitar that goes like that, it will be less cables around.
No, well,
I just
so
kind of
you're
feel...
saying if the guitar had the effects built in, just go guitar with effects built into the amp.
I'm just saying that I kind of feel that you're going to use something like that later on to
Well,
track
I mean,
me
it's
to
always hit or
buy
miss because,
something
like-
that but I don't want to buy.
Like my Fender Strat
Okay.
or either of the two Telecasters back there. They're both Squier Telecasters. All those sound great through any kind of overdrive going into the JC22.
Okay.
But like my humbucker guitars, like the Jaguar, and what else we got over there? The Classic Vibe Starcaster. Those sound really muddy. And there's almost this like weird digital graininess when you like
Okay.
hit certain chords or like play like a solo or something. It's just this weird overtones that happen through that amp. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. But
Okay.
it just doesn't like overdrives. And I've talked to different people about that. I actually I tuned in to this guy Philip from the 40 Watt podcast. He does a Sunday show with Steve from 60 Cycle Hum.
Okay.
So they have like a Q&A thing. You just ask them whatever, and they'll try to answer. I asked them a couple weeks back in the comments. I was like, hey, what kind of overdrive is not going to sound like poop going through this amp? And they were both like, couldn't find one. So I guess they had experience with it. Or at least one of the two of them did. Anyway, so we're off topic.
Yeah,
silos.
I know.
You
You
like
start
the
talking
silos.
about a multi-generational time reflection device there.
Multi-generational time reflection device. The silos.
Okay.
From Earthquaker Devices. Okay, so you like that one?
I think I like it.
All right, we'll get it.
Of course no.
Here's another one here. This almost looks. You're gonna look at this
hold
next
on,
one.
Hold
yeah.
on. Because you're saying we'll get it, but you just got a $710 something.
We'll get to that. We'll get to
no,
that.
but I'm saying
Hold on, that'll be in the news.
plus
That'll be
100
like.
plus 149. No. What
Okay.
you just got, that's gonna be your Christmas
Well,
gift.
I was gonna save that for the end of the episode, but
No, you can say. I'm just saying right now.
Okay.
That's gonna be Halloween. That's gonna be Christmas.
do people
and
get
that's
Halloween
it.
presents? Is that a thing?
I have give you. In the past I have bought you like pedals and music equipment for Halloween.
Well, I didn't get a Labor Day present then.
Because I found like an excuse to don't look ridiculous because I'm giving you music equipment.
Okay.
Okay,
This next pedal
there you go.
came out after the silos. Okay.
Here it comes.
But you're gonna look at this next one and be like, "That's the same shit."
Okay, go ahead.
All right.
What's the next one?
So that was the Earthquaker silos, right? This
Okay.
is the MXR layers.
I don't like the design.
But doesn't it kind of look like the same shit? Like
It
the same
kinda
kind
does.
of graphic design with the circles within
It's
circles?
just that the MXR, you say?
MXR is the brand, yeah.
It's just that the design is smaller than in the other pedal, but
Yeah.
it looks the same.
But MXR has been around forever. They're one of the first to do it as far as
Okay.
like compact size pedals. I've used a few over the years.
Now, what are the
Yeah.
settings, though? Because that's the important part.
So this one,
Are they
I
similar?
actually only caught like a very short like Instagram reel of somebody
Okay.
playing it. I haven't watched a full length demo.
But that's $229.99.
Yeah. So, if you look at the design on this one, you got the in, the out.
Okay.
Also has a control input, so I'm gonna guess that's expression. The controls are mix, attack, trigger, decay, and you have two buttons there. One says single, one says
What is
sub-octave.
attack? Does that mean something special?
So attack and decay they work together, essentially. So it's
Okay.
how hard you're hitting it and then how hard it releases. So it's like how hard it goes in,
Does
how
it
hard
attack?
it lets back out. Yeah. And then
Okay.
decays how it comes back out. Decays.
Okay.
Sorry, that's like a terrible definition. With this particular pedal, you can see it actually has waveforms here. So it's like a square wave. So that's literally the shape that your signal takes on is boom, 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 boom. Versus all the way over here, it kind of curves up and then drops down.
Okay.
So that's just the way that the
But
signal...
it's $229.99.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to get past, isn't it?
Yes, that's expensive.
So here's the description. It says the MXR layers pedal blooms with rich organic sustain that imbues every strum and pluck with resonance and depth pull-off. Oh, no, I said that wrong. Depth. Pull-off chord voicings you never thought possible. Compose transcendent melodies. orchestrate harmonic ensembles, create lively stereo pads, and more, all from a standard MXR housing.
$239.99.
Yeah. Now, that doesn't exactly tell you what it does, because they
No,
always
it
just try to be beautiful
It's just
with
like
their
a nice
descriptions
description
here. Yeah.
there.
Here's where it says the long story, but it's actually the exact same description as what was at the top of the page. So the layers will comfort its expertly created sustain, blah, 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 foot switches, dynamics.
That's like a whole story there, though.
Stacked with options. Here you go.
Okay.
Straightforward set of controls, which so far, maybe it is.
Okay.
The trigger knob sets the sensitivity of the pedal's auto-trigger function, allowing you to generate new layers. I think this is almost like a rip-off of... I can't even talk. Electro Harmonix has a couple pedals. One's called the Freeze, and another one is called the... God, I can't remember off the top of my head. Somebody watching, please tell us what the other Electro Harmonix pedal is. The one with the triangle on it. It's like the Illuminati little eyeball thing in a triangle. I can't remember the name of that one. Not important. But anyway, it kind of...
So you're saying it's a rip-off?
I don't know. This does more. This does a lot more. The Freeze was like one knob and a switch. But this thing allows you to layer different sounds, and it also adds in octaves. So you can add lower octave. That's what the sub-octave is. But it also looks like it might add upper octave. The decay knob sets the fade-out time, which mimics the natural vibrations of a physical string being decayed at high frequencies. So that answers your question about the decay. We'll have to look into this more, because I was under the impression this was more of like a delay pedal, but I think this is more of like an infinite sustainer, which is like what the Freeze pedal is.
Okay.
A couple other companies have them. TC Electronics has one. They're pretty cool. I mean, they're good for like really ambient stuff, or like turning your guitar to like more of like a synthesizer.
Or you will have to hear it to tell me if it's...
With the set of controls and parameters that it gives, I feel like for $229, that's probably pretty good.
Okay.
They got a bunch of demos too. John Bollinger from Premier Guitar, Guitar World did one. Andy demos.
Andy.
Yeah, it's not fair when Andy demos a pedal though, because he plays better than anyone else. Like he knows how to play.
I happen to notice when I have watched his videos that he plays so nicely that whatever he plays, it sounds nice.
That's the thing, is he plays for a specific sound with each pedal. Like he knows how to make that pedal sound good. So not everyone's going to have that same experience that he has. He has an ear for those kind of things. Also, did you know?
What?
I don't know if you've noticed watching his videos. He doesn't use a pick.
I noticed that.
He imitates.
I happen to notice that.
The look of a pick with his fingers, but
he's a talented guy, though.
He is. Somebody using it with harp, that'd be good for harp or any kind of strings.
Know that I know how to play a harp.
Last week we talked about shopping on shopgoodwill.com.
Oh my God! Here we go.
So for $18, we're still waiting on it. It was supposed to come today.
Oh yeah.
So it was a pearl glockenspiel with a stand and case and all that stuff.
And we talk about that you didn't need one.
Yeah, but what I'm intending to do with it is we'll hook it up with a microphone. It could just be like one of the SM57s or something.
Okay.
We could even probably use one of these mics or a condenser. It doesn't really matter. Plug it into the color box, the JHS color box.
Okay.
And then just plug it into some ambient effects. You know, Keeley Caverns or the... what is that delay that we have? The Walrus fundamental delay with the reverse mode. I think that sounds really cool. And we just mess around with that. We can run that through the looper with your other, like your handheld percussions and stuff. I think you'd like it. So MXR layers. So this one, like I said, I haven't caught a whole full-length demo on it. This is, I think, their third or fourth release this year. They actually just put out another pedal. This is actually more recent. I just saw it on their website. So this sold out in like a day.
What is it?
The Yngwie Malmsteen MXR Signature Overdrive. I wasn't sure if it was labeled as an overdrive or distortion. So yeah, this sold out in like a day. You know
the
who that
design is lame.
Oh, it's. I am not a fan.
It's just red.
So Yngwie Malmsteen.
Okay.
He's like an '80s shredder.
Oh.
He just has albums of him shredding guitar.
Okay.
80s style, you know, just like... He plays guitars with scalloped necks. So that's where they take the neck wood and they dig out. So when you're playing the frets, you're actually pressing down rather than just it being a flat piece of wood.
Okay.
So I've never been a fan. I did have his album with the, for those watching or listening, the album with the dragon on it, where he's like fighting the dragon with the guitar or something. I did have that on vinyl years ago just because I thought it looked funny, but I didn't listen to it more than once or twice. I'm not really into that kind of guitar playing. I could never play guitar like that.
Because it looked funny.
Yeah.
Okay. On your defense, I will say this. We have a Chuck
With Chuck Mangione albums, yeah.
Because he looks really funny hugging
we watched King of the Hill. We're big fans of King of the Hill, and Chuck Mangione is all over that show. So we did get the Chuck Mangione. Those were my grandpa's albums, I think.
They?
When my parents were like, "Hey, do you want these?"
Yep.
Like, oh yeah.
No, we put it
Not
on
just
the
one,
living
but
room.
two Chuck Mangione. Like you got "Feels So Good" and something else. Like yeah, we'll take them both.
It's not because we love him,
Yeah.
but the album, the cover of the album.
He's got the French horn.
Yeah.
He's like,
sucking it.
So the MXR Yngwie Malmsteen. This
Okay.
is just essentially their Distortion Plus, which is a 2-knob distortion that's yellow. Slightly modified to what he uses. So the story behind this is he started off using a DoD 250.
Okay.
Same exact pedal, essentially. Josh Scott has covered this. They are 2 pedals that came about around the exact same time by 2 different companies, but they both came up with the identical circuit and just ran with it. Slightly different components, but like I've played both and they sound the same to me.
Now,
Yeah.
how much is the pedal?
I don't know because it's sold out. It's not even. It doesn't even look like it's listed right here.
I just want to judge the price.
I know
based on
that
the
people are.
design.
I know that some people are pissed because they wanted to buy these, and one guy bought like 10 of them
Really?
and put them all up for sale for like
that's good
$600.
business.
And that's the thing with like these special releases is, I think you've seen it with the JHS releases.
I seen it.
They buy them and then they flip them for this huge amount of money that diehard collectors are going to pay.
There was this one that we were talking about the other day.
Which one?
I think that one was with big ear pedal, the pizza pedal.
Oh yeah, the pizza pedal by Big Ear Pedals.
Yeah. We were talking
I see
about
those go
that.
for quite a bit sometimes.
Yeah.
They don't pop up very often because people buy them, and you can't really get the Big Ear pedals very often anymore because they went through those hardships where they're just not really putting stuff out like they used to. So Yngwie Malmsteen,
Yeah.
he had a signature one from DoD. They discontinued it, and then he went to MXR. I believe that was the timeline of this whole thing. Is he went to MXR afterwards because they already made a Distortion Plus, very similar circuit. They
Okay.
put this out. They discontinued it, and please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. And then he went to Fender, and Fender made him the same pedal. And then they discontinued it. A couple weeks ago, MXR put out the Randy Rhoads Signature Distortion Plus.
I don't know who's that one.
It's like the same pedal. Randy Rhoads was the guitarist for Ozzy Osbourne when he went solo. He's the guitarist on the song Crazy Train. Probably something you'd recognize.
Probably.
So Randy Rhoads, he was famous for playing this polka dot guitar.
Okay.
Black with polka dots, white polka dots all over it. Well, we're still having memory card issues, it looks like. But we've got to run for a lot longer this time, so I think we're figuring it out. Hopefully we're in focus this week, too. Sorry about that last week. Probably going to take a few weeks for us to figure out this whole camera situation. But Randy Rhoads, yeah, so polka dot guitar. Early heavy metal guitarist. He was just a young kid that Ozzy Osbourne picked up, and he used the Distortion Plus from MXR. And a couple weeks ago, they just put out he's been dead for years. He died way back in the day, but in a plane crash, of all things. So they put out the Randy Rhoads signature pedal, which is almost the same thing as this Yngwie Malmsteen, and it sold out in like 2 minutes. You know, it was live for like a day or two. Some shops might still have one laying around, but online it pretty much sold out in a day or two. So I don't know how this happened, but it seems like Yngwie got wind of that and was like, hey, can I get one too? And
I need one.
I need one too. I need the money. So here's that one. But I'm not a fan because if it's a distortion pedal with 2 knobs, you're so limited.
Now here's
And
the
people
thing.
love these pedals. And
I get back to the same.
Yeah.
I need to know how much is it because the design is lame. I've been talking about this.
Yeah.
I said I don't know much about music gear, but I do, like on my side, if I'm going to buy something,
Yeah.
I want that something to look nice.
Let me see.
If it's expensive. So
Somebody's selling the
there.
Fender. Somebody's got a Fender one for sale for $250. The regular Distortion Plus, that'll give you a little bit more insight.
Okay. How much is a regular one?
Brand new, $99. Now, I owned one of these, not because of any of these heavy metal guys, but because I was like 19, and I read somewhere online that, hey, Jerry Garcia from the Grateful Dead uses one of these. I'm like, ooh,
Then
I gotta get
you
that.
have to have it. But look,
and I couldn't get along with it.
we're looking at pedals right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, we are.
Yeah.
And on the same screen,
Yeah.
right, there's that Distortion Plus.
Yep.
And then there's the Boss DS1 Distortion.
Completely different.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I was gonna say because one is $99.99
Yeah.
and the other one is $62.
So the Distortion Plus, I don't know if you remember a couple
But
months
how is
back.
it gonna be different if it's just distortion?
Well, they're different pedals. They do different things. Their circuits are different.
But it's distortion.
Yes, but there's so many different types of distortion. There's high gain distortions like heavy metal distortions.
Okay.
There is stuff like the MXR Distortion Plus and DOD 250. They're more of like a preamp distortion. And then DS1, the intended purpose behind the DS1, and I guess people are just now realizing this in the last few years
Okay.
on the internet, is because it was hated on for years. That
And what's the
it
purpose?
just sounded like shit. That's what people said. It sounds like shit, but they were probably running it through a shitty crate practice amp, and it was a clean amp. So people are saying you should run it through a slightly dirty amp, slightly crunchy, already distorted amp, and then just kind of boost it. Personally, I like the Distortion Plus. I didn't try one until this year.
Okay.
I think we got it in the closet somewhere. But I had never tried one. I'd always been curious about it, but people said it sounded like shit. Finally, the internet came around to it and was like, oh, no, this sounds great. But like around the time I started playing guitar, it's like 2008, 2009, everybody online said it sounded like shit. None of my friends had ever tried it.
But you
'Cause
were based on what people were saying.
We were buying
online.
like pawn shop pedals starting out. I mean, you didn't have all these cheap Amazon clones yet that were $20 for a pedal. Your
Okay.
best bet was to go spend your $20 at a pawn shop and get a used DOD Performer
Which,
555
these days, there's
distortion.
some good finds at a poncho.
Oh yeah,
There
definitely.
are.
We found the Ibanez chorus that I modified or
remember
fixed
that.
up and sold. Yeah, but so the Distortion Plus, completely different circuit. I actually don't mind it. I liked it as a boost with the gain all the way down. Still got a little crunchy. I liked it.
So we're off topic.
Yeah,
again.
I couldn't find the Yngwie pricing. I don't know why I can't
How
find that.
much is that pedal?
Which one?
This thing that we're talking about.
I can't find it. It's like it's sold out and now I can't.
Someone is gonna have to tell us how much is the pedal.
Yeah.
Not
the,
because
the
I'm
Fender
gonna,
one,
not
which is
because
like
I'm
the
gonna
same
buy it
pedal.
for you.
Oh, I don't want it. I'll tell you right now, I don't want it.
I just want to know how much is it.
129?
129.
I don't know. That's a reverb listing. Is somebody already selling it because they didn't like it? 129, 120. Okay, so some stores actually do have it now.
129.99.
I was seeing reports that it was completely sold out, but I don't know what the hype is behind Yngwie Malmsteen. I don't get it. So that one, you're gonna say no on that, right?
I don't know.
I wouldn't
also,
buy it.
I will say 129 is not that bad.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that bad, but
If I was a fan, maybe, but I'm not big into chasing the sound of other guitars. Like, I don't want their signature sound. If it's a pedal that they happen to use, okay. But if it's like this was designed to sound exactly like this guy, I don't know. I don't need it. Like, I got the MXR Distortion Plus once
But that makes
because
sense.
Jerry Garcia, but, like, I had no idea how Jerry Garcia used that thing because I've never heard him use that kind of distortion in his sound. He had to filter it somehow, and he ran, like, a bunch of different amps on stage. So, who knows? But, I've seen it argued online about exactly how he ran that pedal.
Okay.
I've never seen a definitive answer. This is back before people were just photographing pedal boards, and posting them online. He died in like 95.
You have done that?
Well, yeah.
I seen you.
That's a thing.
Okay.
That's that whole pedal board group that I'm in on Facebook. Okay, here's the next one.
Coming back to whatever we were talking about before all of this.
Yeah.
Were we talking about new gear?
We were talking about new gear.
What
These were all new pedals. Let's switch over to a guitar.
Of course.
So this one came out, I want to say like a month ago, but it's picking up some traction online because it's getting a lot of hate. And there's some argument going on. So let me go to the listing right here. Sweetwater.
Sweetwater.
By the way, we're not sponsored by Sweetwater, but if Sweetwater wanted to sponsor us, we'll accept.
Of course.
With our 3 followers. $299.
Okay.
The Squier Affinity Series Jaguar electric guitar.
Mystic Metallic Brown.
They got these 2 colors. So Mystic Metallic Brown. I like this color.
You like that color?
I do like this color. It's a weird brown, and I've seen it in some videos of people playing it where it doesn't look brown. It kind of just...
What's the other color?
Sunburst.
I don't know that one.
But check it out. So if you get the brown, you get the maple fretboard.
Okay.
But if you get the sunburst, you get the dark, like rosewood neck. So it really just matters which neck you want. But some people care a lot about the color. For me, it'd be more about which neck I want, which I'd probably want this one for the maple fretboard. I don't know. The sunburst looks cool. Ryan from 60 Cycle Hum did a video recently where he compared it with a Player 2 series by Fender. It's their new series that they came out with. Because the switching system is very similar.
But wait, why is the guitar getting hate?
So a regular Jaguar guitar.
She looks nice.
A regular Jaguar will have... Do you remember I had the J Mascis Jazzmaster?
Hard to tell.
I traded it for that Walrus Bellwether.
Just to clarify, same way you trade pedals, you trade guitars.
Yeah,
so
that's
hard
true.
to keep track.
Okay, so up here in the upper side,
Okay.
you would have 2 wheels and some switches, which activated like a rhythm circuit. And then down here, instead of having a 3-way toggle switch like a Telecaster would have, there were additional switches and then 3 switches for the pickups, and then something called a strangle switch, which cuts out all the low end.
Okay.
So they stripped all that stuff away. So the Player 2 series, that one was getting a lot of hate because they dropped all the switches and they went with this basic 3-way switch, and it had the regular Jaguar pickups. But then people are complaining that the tailpiece was too close to the bridge, and they're like, "That's not accurate. That can't be a Jaguar." That's the argument is
Because
that's
it's
not a
close to the
Jaguar
bridge?
because it doesn't meet original specs for the guitar. So the argument is the people hate it because it's not what their classic rendition of a Jaguar is. But then there's the people that say, "Hey, this is new, innovative." They're allowed to try new things. The modern player might not want all those switches anymore. They might not use them. So let's just offer a cheaper, stripped-down version. And boom, they also put out one that's
But
a
wait,
Squier one.
isn't the idea of a new guitar to have like new things or different things?
Yeah.
Even when it's like a design, like a Jaguar, okay?
Yeah.
But there's many types of Jaguar. Like you were saying, we get back to the argument of distortion.
Yeah.
That you were saying,
Different
that
flavors
I
for
can
whatever you want.
compare
Yeah. Different
the
people have different
distortion.
interests. Exactly.
I think putting it on guitars, it will be the same thing for a guitar,
Exactly.
isn't it?
I mean, that's my perspective on it. So they're the purists that are like, nope, that's not a Jaguar. That's
Okay.
not it. That can't be it.
Okay.
But this thing, $299
That's not bad.
for this Affinity, it looks very similar
That's not
to the
bad.
Player 2 series. The differences are the tailpiece is spaced where it should be for like a vintage spec one. So that fixes the complaint that the Player 2 series has. But the pickups, Ryan Burke from 60 Cycle Hum, he took this thing apart. I've seen a couple other YouTubers.
He took the pickups apart?
Yeah, no, didn't take the pickups, took off the pick guard.
Oh.
Now, a traditional Jaguar with the pickups, they mount directly to the body.
Okay.
Which, this one, they mount to the pick guard, more like a Stratocaster. But then I've seen a couple different YouTubers talk about, well, these aren't even Jaguar pickups. And they're not really Strat pickups either, because there's these weird brass or copper rails.
So what are they?
Like glued to the bottom. They're just like a hybrid pickup of some kind. In all the demos, I think they sound good. Jason Mays did a demo where he shot out 3 different levels of Jaguar.
Okay.
He did this one. I think he did the Player 2 series, and then he did a higher end, I think like Vintera 2 or something, or
Which
American
one won?
Professional. He rated them not as which one won necessarily, but which one was best for which application. So he said like beginners or somebody that's looking for something they can modify, this is the perfect one.
The Affinity series Jaguar?
You can mess with the pickups however you want, because you can fit regular Stratocaster pickups in here. So there's so many options out there on the market that you can buy and drop in there. You can upgrade the bridge if you wanted. You can upgrade the tailpiece in.
Also, it's nice that it's cheap.
Still spend less than like $800 on this
like
thing.
if you were to start, it's kind of a fair price to start.
Now, I have good experiences with the Affinity series. I actually have this right here. I brought this out. Hopefully the camera can focus on it. Sorry. So the Affinity Jazzmaster. The same argument that those people are making about the Jag not being a real Jaguar, they could say this is not a real Jazzmaster because... Let me see if this will focus on the camera. That has a Stratocaster bridge on it. It doesn't have a regular Jazzmaster bridge. Everything else is the same. It's got the shape. It's got the headstock. It's got the pickups, which arguably those are not real Jazzmaster pickups either. When you open those up and look inside, they don't look exactly like real Jazzmaster pickups. They look more like Strat pickups the way they're wired. They sound great to me. That guitar sounds great. It plays great. The Affinity guitars have a nice matte finish on the neck. They're not super shiny.
Okay.
The Classic Vibe guitars, we have the Classic Vibe
I remember
60s
that one.
bass, jazz bass.
I think that one looks beautiful.
And the Starcaster. And those have really polished necks that have some kind of gloss finish on them. So that kind of slows you down a little bit as you're playing. So, it's everyone's personal preference.
You see, that's something that I didn't know.
Yeah.
That, that the gloss can affect the way you play.
Yeah.
Like, that's news
I
to me.
personally prefer the matte finish on the neck. But I don't mind either way. I really don't mind. Now, the whole argument about this not being a Jaguar, I disagree. I think what makes it a Jaguar is that you can tell this and the Jazzmaster have the same body shape for the most part. Right? Like these look the same to
they
you,
do.
right? Now, the difference between those two are the pickups. You have this style pickup for Jazzmaster.
Okay.
And then you have, not quite like what I'm showing you on the screen, but 2 single coil pickups that are similar to Strat pickups, but they have, traditionally for a Jaguar, this like metal claw that wraps around. So people argue if it doesn't have the switches, if it doesn't have the pickups,
Then it's no one.
then it's not a Jaguar. But I think the basic definition of what Fender has never outright said, but like through their specs over the years, what defines a Jaguar is that it has a shorter scale from the bridge to the nut than a Jazzmaster or a Stratocaster or a Telecaster. Short scale, the body shape, and that's it. Short scale, body shape. I mean, all the other features are interchangeable. Now, I brought out another one. I have a 2010 blacktop Jaguar. Now, I've modified the crap out of this thing.
Oh.
I've got a Bigsby on it.
Yep.
I modified it with 3 humbuckers on there. We've got the Gretsch Filtertron in the neck position. The middle position was the stock bridge pickup that came on this thing. And then this thing came out of a, it was like a 2000s SG that I ripped that thing out of. and then the Bigsby. So it came with a regular 2-pneumatic style bridge. It had 2 humbuckers, 3-way switch, none of the other circuitry stuff. So that was how it came stock, was almost built like a Gibson-style guitar.
But you have modified that a ton of times.
People could probably argue that that's not a real Jaguar, like in its original condition, because it didn't have all the regular features. But that was made by Fender. It's labeled as a Jaguar on the headstock. It's a real one. They made it. So that's my side of the argument. That's my side on it, is the shape, the scale length. For the Jazzmaster, I would argue a little bit different. It should have the Jazzmaster pickups. So body shape, the longer scale length, and then the 2 Jazzmaster style pickups.
I just kind of feel you're training me to buy the specifics of what you want in a guitar.
Is it working?
You're saying you will argue this, that, like you're being really specific. Yeah. I think it's that you're like sending me like messages. Like that's what I had to look for.
So I think as far as new gear that came out this couple weeks, month, those are the ones I wanted to highlight for you.
Okay.
I don't want to go. We can go on forever.
I do like the guitar though.
Yeah.
I do think $299 is a fair price.
Yeah. And I think it looks great.
I kind of like the color. I kind of like it.
Yeah. Now, I love Squiers.
Yeah.
For a while, when I first started playing guitar, I think it was 2000, a better neck pickup I had laying around, which actually came out of a more modern Telecaster, and slapped that in there. Pickups still don't sound that great. I mean, they're low end pickups, but it sounds way better than I'm sure it would have. Did that, polished up the frets, cleaned up the neck, oiled the neck. It was straight. The neck was actually really good quality. The frets are good. Turns out it's from 1998. Damn. So that's like right before their quality started going downhill. So I'm happy with it. Eventually maybe some better pickups in it, but it's a good guitar.
You made it work.
I'm not going to sell it, I don't think. I think I'm going to hold on to that one because it looks very much like my very first electric guitar that I had.
Mark my words.
Yeah.
A couple months, weeks, days.
Speaking of selling stuff, though, I did just have, this is sad, I sold my JHS Punchline. Great pedal. All around just great, all-in-one bass workstation for recording, for playing live, for just jamming. It was amazing. Great pedal.
Expensive.
Expensive pedal, yeah. Still kind of paying that one off through Sweetwater, but...
Sweetwater.
I sold it because my car insurance went up out of nowhere. So I want to kind of segue into this because I pulled this out of the car as a warning to people.
That is
this is the worst pedal ever right here. This is the Snapshot from Progressive. I agreed to do this, and it was a mistake. I plugged this into my car for the last 6 months.
You said that was going to be cheaper. So
and they said it was going to reduce my rate.
That's the reason why I was jumping into it. Though.
They gave me the discount for plugging it into the car. And then every turn I take, no matter how delicately I stop, how I start to slow down well in advance before I come to a red light, this shit beeps at me nonstop. So they're like, okay, it's time to renew your insurance for the next 6 months. You're going to go up from $800 for a 6-month plan to $13 something. So sold the JHS. But we got the insurance situation all fixed. So Snapshot from Progressive, don't do it. Not that it has anything to do with pedals, but if this were a pedal, don't get it.
Worst thing ever.
Worst thing ever. But in better news, now that the insurance situation is taken care of.
But how ironic is this? You sold a pedal because of the insurance situation, but then $710 were spent.
Well, we had an agreement where I was going to buy the $299 Squier, and then you said, well, you want that nicer one. Why don't you get the nicer one?
Because it's stupid. Because if you get another version different than the one that you want, then you're going to be bothering me.
But the other guitar wasn't even a Fender. It wasn't even a Jaguar. It's just one that I've been after for a long time. And
here go the after a long time story. that you use a
There
lot.
are so many pieces of equipment that like are on my
that you have
eventually
been after
list.
a long time. Yeah.
The Jazz Chorus was one of them. This next one, it's going to be an Ibanez AR420. That particular model I wasn't necessarily after, but that's the one they have currently in production. But the Ibanez Artist series, classic. Just they could be used for doom. They could be used for jazz, blues, hippie jam band music. I mean, you could do anything with these things.
What was the name of the illness you told me?
Gas.
Gas? Is
Gas.
that the name?
Gear acquisition syndrome. That was the one from last week. Yeah.
Yep.
No, there are still things that are on my list eventually. Fender Princeton Chorus, Fender Super Reverb, and I don't even like amps anymore. I mean, big ass amps, I don't like them, but like they're still on my list.
Now, what was the price? Because $710 is after taxes.
Yeah, it was after taxes and shipping. So there's two models. The AR325 was $599, and then the 420, which has a better maple laminate top. That one, yeah, it's $650, I think.
That's the one that you got.
Yeah.
But the taxes on this thing, though.
Yeah. Well, you know what's fucked up is I sold that JHS pedal on Reverb, and they charged that guy like $40-something for taxes.
That's insane.
And then they took their chunk out of mine. Like, that sucks. But, they take their percentage.
That's the way it works, yeah.
But no, I can't believe that guy had to pay $40-something for taxes on a pedal.
That was insane.
Yeah. But I'm glad the guy worked with me on that because he gave me a lower offer than I was going to. I was considering taking his lower offer, but I was like, you know what, man, like, if you could, like. And we met kind of in the middle of what he wanted and what I wanted.
If you could, I need to pay for my insurance.
Gotta get this insurance.
And then you got the $710 guitar. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Of course. You also sold your pedal board this week.
I did sell a pedal board this week, yeah.
Yep.
I had one that I had listed for a long time, and the guy wanted to meet halfway, and I think we talked about that last week.
We talked about it last week.
And it was hard trying to coordinate this. I had a few people interested in this, but then they never wanted to actually like meet up to do this. And this guy was finally willing to. We tried to line it up like 3 times, and then something came up every time, and he was still willing to buy it. So 2008, really started getting into it around like 2009. Squier sucked. They were terrible guitars. Their quality was just awful at that time.
And then what happened?
They had a series called Vintage Modified, and the quality control was really bad. So the Bullet and Affinity lines back then kind of sucked. They were their budget models. They were all budget models. Vintage Modified was their first attempt at like stepping it back up from trying to meet like their 90s quality.
Okay.
And it wasn't great. I had a Vintage Modified Bass 6, and the neck was just bad right out of the box. Like, I could never get it fully intonated. The action was high no matter what I did, adjusted the neck. I eventually took it to a shop, which I don't usually do for my guitars. They couldn't do anything with it. They said this is just the way it's built.
But aren't they
Other people might have had better experiences.
Isn't that the purpose to have, like, that they are on budget?
Well, they shouldn't be bad, because if you have a beginner player and they're just starting out, that could make them quit.
Well, that's true.
They think it's them and not the guitar. And that was my problem, too, is I thought it was me, not these guitars. Like, I thought, oh, well, I paid money for this. Like, they built this thing. It should be good. No, they're mass-produced. They don't have time to check every single one, even though they have those little stickers and tags on them that say they were inspected at the factory. That was just to give them a quick glance. But they stepped it up. After Vintage Modified, it kind of started crossing over with the Paranormal series. Vintage Modified faded out when Classic Vibe came along. And that's when they started like really killing it. The last like 6-7 years, just they're blowing it away. And the Paranormal series, that's where like they do experimental stuff that they're not willing to put the money towards for regular Fenders. So all sorts of stuff, like the Paranormal, the Rascal Bass, the one I got from Fender.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that one's crazy. I mean, 2 big humbuckers on a bass. It's usually something you'd see in, like, a Gibson or an Epiphone, but that thing's cool because it mixes the Coronado headstock, the Bass 6 body shape, Mustang bridge, They just took a bunch of different parts from different Fenders and were like, hey, let's make this new thing. Which the Rascal existed before in different versions, but like this is the first time they really made it this particular way. So I think they really stepped it up. I've played older Squiers, like the ones from the 80s that were made in Japan, the 90s. They were really good. Those are equal to like a made in Mexico Fender. Speaking of which, I've got that guitar. I guess we could talk about that. My parents' neighbors were going to just throw this guitar away. They set it out on the curb, and my dad went and grabbed it up. And he sent me a picture of it. And he's like, I don't know what this is. Is this any good? And it was a Squier Affinity Telecaster. I was like, depends on the year, really. If it's a new Affinity, sure. But
the one that you bought, because you had to fix it.
I had to buy a new...
I'm just looking back because I'm trying to find it on the rack.
So I opened it up. It was in rough condition. I opened it up. Well, the guy told my dad, or his wife told my dad, that the husband had tried to fix it, but when he plugs it in, there's like a weird buzzing noise. So I'm thinking, oh, it's just a grounding issue. This will be easy.
So before you say what was it, even me, that I don't know anything about gear and how to fix guitars and shit, but when you showed me how that was fixed, I thought that was terrible. Like, terrible. So, without knowing anything about it.
Like I said, the neighbor told my dad, I don't know, there's a buzzing sound when we plug it in. My husband doesn't want to fuck with it. Well, it looks like the husband fucked with it because I open it up and it's just a mess of hot glue, solder everywhere, just stacked on top of itself. Like, it's not even connected. The wire's not even connected to anything. The two wires coming off the jack were not connected to anything. They had glue gun on the tips, or hot glue on the tips of the wires, not connected to anything.
And what was the toothpick holding?
So the toothpick...
There was a toothpick on it.
So the control panel, the metal plate for the control panel, they had somehow stripped out the wood, so there was nothing holding the screw in place. So they made like little dowels out of the toothpicks, and they tried to glue them in there so they could put the screw in there and have something to actually like connect it to and have it drill into. Which I ended up just filling that in and then re-drilling it, and it worked just fine.
Yeah.
But no, I had to order a new control panel because I was going to just I had pots laying around, so I was going to just slap in some new pots, slap in the new capacitor, and then wire it to the pre-existing three-way switch. But it was some weird, funky style switch. I had never seen anything like it. The way it was laid out, it made no sense. I couldn't tell what was what. And they had hot glue all over that thing. So it's like, what's going on?
It was a hot mess. It was bad, though. I never seen so much glue.
So I just bought a brand new, because it's a cheap Squier. I didn't know how this was going to turn out. I bought a brand new control plate from Amazon that had the pots already built into it, the three-way switch. You just have to connect the jack and the pickups. So I slapped in.
And the guy was like, I'm going to come to you, and that was really nice.
Yeah, and then I told him, I was like, hey, I'm going to knock $15 off this thing just because you're willing to make this drive. Because we were going to meet in the middle, and it's from Tempe to Casa Grande, where we live. It's like a 45-minute drive.
It is a long drive.
So I'm glad the guy was willing to come. I was happy to knock off the price for him. I was happy to get rid of it because it was just taking up room.
It was. It was a big pedal board, which... No judgment, for people who has a big pedal board, but that was taking a ton of room here. Though.
And that's probably not something like I would have bought.
For yourself?
Yeah. Luckily, it was free for me. And it was cool. We did have a lot of stuff hooked up on it when we were doing the looping, when we first started doing the looping thing.
Yeah, I remember.
But then, it's kind of easier to just have those things be, loose laying on the table when we're both messing with different instruments.
Yeah.
And we can have different things running through the inputs of the looper. So, I mean...
It was quite easier that way,
Yeah.
Though. Yeah.
Yeah. Because one of us could be doing, shakers or something, and, we have the electric kalimba. The other one could be doing, the rain stick and stuff like that. And then we just layer things in.
Sounds really nice.
Yeah. But that's the way we've been able to bond with music. We did try to do guitar lessons for a little bit.
But you're not patient with
Well, no, our son doesn't really allow... that to happen. You learned some chords.
I
also
guess
don't
so,
know.
yeah.
I don't know the songs that you would want to learn either. Like I don't know that kind of music.
No, here's my problem.
Yeah.
You know the sad story. When I was young,
Yeah.
when I was like 10, I told you that my mom had bought me a guitar, and
Yeah.
I was learning to play the guitar. And one day, my dad said that he didn't think he made a comment along the lines like, "Oh, I don't think you're gonna become a rock star, honey. Like you sound really bad."
Yeah.
And I mean, I was like,
Just devastated.
I was devastated. I was like a really fragile
Yeah.
kid, and like that alone was like, I'm not gonna play guitar anymore.
Yeah.
And I kind of let it outside, and I never touched it again until I told you the story
Yeah.
of what guitar I had, and you bought me that guitar,
Yeah, it was a Yamaha
Yeah.
Pacifica, which
the Yamaha Pacifica.
I'd played a couple of those when I was first starting out. Like I had friends that had them, and they were just budget guitars back then. I mean, they were nothing special.
They were
but
probably a budget guitar when my mom bought it for me.
I would say if I were starting out today as a brand new player with the equipment that's out, the guitars that are available in the lower end, I would probably pick up a Pacifica over a Squier or an Epiphone. Like, even the lowest end Pacifica. Now, they have ones that are like $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, but like, I think the lowest, I think it got you the second level up from like their base model.
Which I probably had the base model when they bought it for me the first
I think
time.
their base model
Yeah.
is like $299 or $199, something like that. But I think I got you the step up from that. I think it sounds great.
But
Plays
anyway,
great.
you got me that guitar because I told you the sad story, you
Yeah.
know, like they killed my dreams.
Yeah.
And then you started teaching me how to play the guitar, and
Yeah.
then I think the dream died again. So, because,
You
you
just
know,
got to pick it back up. It's there. It's always there. We also got you the acoustic one, an acoustic
Yeah.
Yamaha. That's same color as the Pacifica.
yeah,
Nice matches, and that's a beautiful guitar too.
that looks
It
really
plays
nice,
really
though.
well. Really bright sounding too.
I also started
compared
with
to,
the
like,
dream of
my
playing the
Martin,
ukulele.
yeah.
Which we were talking about. There's
Ukulele,
electric
yeah.
ukuleles that you can use pedals.
Yeah,
to
yeah.
that.
We can get you an electric ukulele at some point. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that one would be nice.
They make pickups that you can attach to an acoustic one, but that's like a
To
little
use pedals?
Yeah, it's a little like piezo transducer pickup thing. They're not very good. Be like really more like a microphone.
No, we were
Than a
checking
pickup.
on some
Yeah.
really cool electric ukuleles that you can
Yeah.
use pedals through that. That was nice.
and electric mandolins.
We saw that.
They make 8 and 4-string versions.
Yeah.
Just it'd be cool just to have, you know, a bunch of different like
Everything.
random stringed
Yeah.
instruments. I don't know. My dad and I once built a banjo using like a wooden tee box
You
as the
told me
body,
that.
and we put a Strat pickup in that thing. That sounded great. And we did like, you know, a couple cigar box guitars, but we just put like pre-made like Squier necks on them, I think. But the banjo one was cool. I think I sold that as at a yard sale when I was like 14, 15.
But you see, those things are nice. You see, like going back to that childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Like your dad was building things with you while my dad was telling me that I was never going to make it
Yeah.
into the music world. So
And it's
I never made it. So
It's funny because like I was 15, 16 maybe when my dad and I we built a few. And
that's nice.
it was kind of funny because like my dad knew like the woodworking side of things and like cutting the wood and like with the cigar boxes, it's a pre-made, you know, thing. You cut the body, you put, for us, what we did, we used Cohiba boxes.
I don't know what's that.
That's a
though.
brand of cigar.
Okay.
So we used Cohiba boxes. I can't remember, I think on one of them we drilled and glued just like a big base piece all the way across. So we could mount the neck in. We routed out the hole to mount the neck. And then we didn't have to do this, but I didn't know any better. Like it was my idea to cut a circular hole, like a sound hole. And then we put the pickup, like a Strat pickup in right there. But like we could have just probably routed that to the shape of the Strat pickup and just made it like, you know, a solid body or semi-hollow.
Did they work?
But yeah, my dad knew the woodworking side of things and like had to line everything up. And I did the electronics, which as a 15, 16-year-old kid, that was like, by then I'd already been modifying guitars. for a couple years because I couldn't help myself. I was tearing things apart and figuring out how pickups worked and how to swap out pickups, swap out bridges and necks on different guitars and stuff. So yeah, we kind of bonded over that. We did a few projects with that.
That's nice.
Yeah. Other than that, though, we talked about the new releases.
Talk about the music equipment that you sold.
I think that's about it for today.
Yeah.
Out of everything we talked about, which piece of equipment did you like the most? We had the
I
Squier.
thought you were going to say, which piece of equipment are you going
Which
to
one
buy
are you
me?
gonna buy? No, we got the Squier Affinity. We got the Yngwie Malmsteen Signature Distortion.
Which,
Or
again,
overdrive.
I
Sorry,
just
the labeling
think,
is an overdrive.
Like such a simple thing. I
Get
don't
the
know.
Oh, we didn't talk about this one. Hold on. We did miss one. I'm
did we
excited about
miss?
this one, and this is one I did watch the demos. I think it sounded great, and we'll just talk about it real quick.
Okay.
The Old Blood Noise Endeavors Pardner.
Okay.
It's a crazy, like, synthy fuzz. It has an effects loop in it, so you can plug different things in through it, rather than just, like, in and out. You can go through it with different effects. So just look at that thing. Like, classic, like, cowboy-looking art.
That looks nice, though. It actually looks really nice, though.
Yeah.
It's like a picture.
So, bass, treble, fuzz volume, filter, intensity. You get a couple different effects for what they call the lasso, which is what they're referring to as the effects loop on that thing. So, I think it's really
cowboy
cool.
thing.
Yeah.
That's nice.
$229. Old Blood Noise, they're a boutique company. They got some really nice stuff.
And
I
what
think
do
it's
you
worth-
think? Do you like it?
I like it.
Huh.
I don't know what I would do with something like that, but I like it.
Okay.
But it's good for like your noise rock kind of stuff, or like you're getting some crazy. That would probably pair really well with the where'd it go?
With what?
The MXR pedal we were talking about.
You think?
Yeah, probably you could do the layers. You could run the layers through the Old Blood Noise pedal, and then put the silos after that. Get yourself a whole little crazy ambient psychedelic noise machine there. I don't. Okay, so yeah, what do you like the most? We have the silos, the Old Blood Noise, the Yngwie Malmsteen. What's your choice?
It doesn't have to be the pedal, because I think I like. I mean, it was the guitar that I like the most.
The Affinity Jaguar.
I mean,
I
I
like
think
it
it
too.
looks really nice.
Yeah.
I think it's cheap. Like, if you're starting to play guitar, it's a good option to start with.
Yeah. Like
Even
Squire's
when
making some
there's a
solid stuff
debate
these
about
days. Yeah.
the whole guitar thing.
Yeah, is it a Jag or is it not?
But I think if you're starting, that's a
Yeah.
good option
And
to
it doesn't
start
even
with.
matter. If you're starting out, it doesn't matter
And it's
what
a
it is.
reliable brand.
Yeah.
I just think it's nice.
Like, it shouldn't matter if it's not a real Jaguar. If you think it's cool
Just
and you're
go for
learning
it.
something on it, that's
I like my Yamaha.
your Yamaha. Yeah.
I mean, if you
Yeah.
like it.
But on that note, I guess we should wrap it up. We've been at this for, I think, an hour and almost 20 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Before you start buying music equipment, it's just a good time to call it off.
Adding it to the cart. And
Yep. We just need to stop.
no, we can't stop. Then the podcast ends. Like, then we won't be able to do an episode 3.
Oh, I guess so. Yeah. Well, the next episode we might be able to show the guitar.
Yeah,
if it rides.
hopefully.
Yeah.
Please let us know in the comments if we were blurry this week. Hopefully we were not. Memory card issue, we're still having issues with. I'm trying to figure out how we can run the camera just directly to the computer, bypass the need for a memory card. I don't know cameras very well. I know guitars. But we're figuring it out. Hopefully you stuck around through this whole thing. The usual stuff that people say. Follow, subscribe, like,
yeah. Comment.
follow us.
Good or bad, I guess.
No, yeah, I mean, you don't have to do those things, but just watching the video, that means something to us. So
Yeah. So thank you.
hopefully we get this thing together and, really nail it down, figure out what we're doing here.
Okay.
All right, this was the Bad Guitarist Podcast. My name is Andrew,
And my name is Scott.
and we'll catch you next time.